Yeah, we can start now.
Yes, so very good evening to all. This is a special day. We have our former president birthday, and we are starting this session. I am Vijayanand Jha and extremely excited to welcome all our participants and fellow Cyber Gurukul member to yet another need of the hour and definitely interesting session. At this time, to witness the world of possibility, we will see step by step decoding what and how of security service edge. And for the same, leverage the insight and expertise for cybersecurity evangelist come our esteemed speaker, Mr. Brijesh Miglani. Brijesh brings 18 plus years of his valuable experience in cybersecurity industry and is a trusted advisor to multiple enterprise and government customer with focus on data security, insider threat, and SASE framework adoption. Bridges, we are definitely looking forward to grab all amazing learnings today from you and highly appreciate your presence. CG core members, we would look forward to your valuable inputs in between as well. And before handing over dice to Harsh Kaur, our founding members of Cyber Gurukul, let me request my dear friend Brijesh to speak few words. Brijesh, over to you.
Thanks, Vijay. I hope I'm audible, and I was really excited, and I think this is my one of the second session which I'm doing for the SSC. The last session which I done was for the SASE, and it was during the pandemic time. And I was discussing with Harsh that let's start doing something face to face, right? So maybe the next time when we all are meeting, it will be a face to face discussion, right? So today I'll try that one that you all have taken your weekend time and attending this session. So I will justify to your weekend time, which typically dedicated to your family and all. Okay, so the focus is that I should bring something from my experience, the day in, day out, the interactions which I'm doing with multiple organizations, and how I can bring the simplified way of this security service edge rather than just giving a complex buzzwords which are there in the market. Okay, so that's the intent. So I'm looking forward to the next 35-40 minutes spending with you and sharing that experience.
Thank you, Brijesh. Please set the context.
Thank you so much, Vijay. And first of all, Brijesh, I think thank you so much for the suggestion and joining us this time so that we can decode now the security kit of SASE, which is Security Service Edge, and a thought leader like you racing our CG platform. I must mention it's a special honor for us. It definitely means a lot to us. And, I, Vijaya, the CG core members, I do need to mention that we, in fact, all the, extended family out here, they've today, taken time from their weekend and are really excited to, learn and grab all the, insights that you will be giving us here. So yes, the excitement definitely is viral over here, Brijesh. And coming to this, of course, Vijaya, the core members, as well as the extended family, thank you so much for joining today. Yes, a pat your backs for joining us on the weekend event. But we will make sure, it is worth it because Brijesh is here today, so nothing to worry on that. So once again, thank you, everyone. A very good evening to all. Before we move forward, just few, interesting thoughts came in my mind of how Cyber Gurukul and Security Service Edge, there are some, you can say, similarities that they hold. Well, to start with, SSC and CG both are, I think, almost pandemic born kids. So yeah, that's definitely there. But on a serious note, like Brijesh also mentioned, simplification. So CG, SSC, both the pioneer is a simplified story that can, everyone can relate, can connect. While CG talks about the application, perspective, SSC focus on the delivery of it. While CG touches the people element as a platform so that together we enable, engage, empower. SSE is a platform that promotes technology convergence. And of course, we'll be digging deeper into this security of cloud, by cloud, and for cloud today as well. And I think the most important aspect here is that inclusiveness. We want to bridge the gap between cybersecurity as a fraternity, the business and community at large. And I think SSE would definitely be doing a good job in bridging or bringing security closer to the user, data, cloud, business, bringing all of this and knitting it together. So I thought this could definitely be a start on, to introduce CyberGurukul and few things that I understand on SSE. But yes, before we move forward, let me also now take just 2 minutes to set the ball rolling. And over here, I would like to take the help of all our wonderful audience here. In last 3 years, this definitely is the modern era, right? And the difficulties post-pandemic or pandemic cannot be understated. But this has also opened us to the world of possibilities. There have been so many aspects to our life, to IT security, which we never imagined before. I will be opening up to all of you now. Please, you can, send us some, chat window. You can message us, or you can unmute yourself and share your thoughts. What are those things? What are those aspects that you never imagined would have happened, but today it is possible? Vijay, why don't you start off?
See, the acceptance of digital means and basically by people who are not very much tech savvy. This is possible. Like I am doing a UPI success story, okay, this is in India and this is being endorsed by IMF recently. So these are all possible because people trust and ease of use is there. This all happened because someone in background, the infrastructure which is being built and it is being secured. If India is growing, there are elements who doesn't want India to grow. So these are possibly possible because of the Indian certain and Indian expertise are building infrastructure, Indianize, and then making it possible to reach the remotest area, and people are accepting it because of trust. So that comes in my mind, and I would like others to share, like Satish has mentioned in comment, seamless, secured communication, growth of service industry.
Great. Definitely growth of service industry, the changes that we have started seeing in the business and the user mindset. And like Vijaya mentioned, digital transformation. I think that is something which we definitely did not imagine. Good inputs, definitely. Any other, suggestions that any inputs anyone would like to give before we continue?
Culture to work from home, Satish again, rightly point. Yes, it was.
And I can say, at least I have seen the groceries transformation as well. Now, within 7-8 minutes, you get the groceries from Blinkit, Zepto, and all, right? Which we have not imagined.
Even public distribution is also digitalized, Aadhaar linking. So the whatever the duplicacy was there, it is being addressed.
Agreed. I think technology definitely is touching everyone's life now. It's actually transforming. And these are some good examples that Brijesh and Vijaya just gave. Very interesting. Do we have any other, suggestions that anyone would give, or it is there in the chat box, Vijaya? Before we
Satish has said growth of service industry and culture of work from home.
Yeah, that is what he shared. All right.
Yeah, again, we have this uses of Paytm. Yes, so this fintech is one of also pushing digital transformation and digital payment in India.
Very true.
Thank you, Pawan.
Adoption of digital wallet. True.
It's going heating up. We are going to Bitcoin, like digital currency.
Wow. Who gave this suggestion?
Yes, again, it's Satish.
Wow, Satish is on fire today. Amazing. Satish, Pawan. Great, amazing, amazing thoughts. So what we'll do is, of course, would love to hear more thoughts. I think there are few more which has come up. Can you just check?
Yeah, crypto, yes, and then Pawan again, lots of OS changes in education industry as well. Yeah, so tech, all industries, I have come across legal tech. Okay, so legal tech is also very payment and these things are
Again,
coming
one
up.
more.
Sorry.
Great, great. And
Yes.
crypto was actually, I think, also suggested by Toha. So Toha,
So yeah,
Pawan,
yes.
Satish are definitely doing a great justice. So I think we can have more, such thoughts coming in, and that's the world of possibilities that we are already witnessing around ourselves. We can continue with that, but in interest of time, let me also, let us continue with the discussion and understand how is it happening, and what is the way ahead, right? So, in times like today, uh, the world of possibilities, I think some great thoughts already come up. It has happened because we were able to embrace cloud with confidence, something which 3 years back maybe is not we could have thought of. In fact, 66% of enterprises today are consuming cloud, not operational efficiency. I'm not talking about that. It is for the business transformation. And that is how that fintech, legal tech, education, everyone, they have, actually reimagined the possibilities of the business, how they are doing it now, thanks to the technology. And let's not forget work from anywhere. And specifically keeping India in mind, the kind of mindset the businesses have today, this hybrid culture was not something we could ever imagine, right? And yes, today this is a boundary-less era. Again, no one ever thought that the era of defined perimeter is going to get over. Internet is going to become the new perimeter, or for that matter, user, data, cloud. I think that will be definitely identity is the new parameter. So yes, definitely there are a lot of parameters without this perimeter-less era that we are seeing. And this is something which definitely none of us imagined. When this is possible, then why can't security at scale, speed, and with simplification be possible? Why can't we, have that balancing act between the security and productivity? Why can't we have that technology convergence and a true platform security strategy story? That is exactly what we will be digging deeper with the power of SSE. Let's reimagine cybersecurity with the power of SSE. And I'm sure I'll leave that part to Brijesh, but what we also will be digging deeper today into how SSE is actually touching the different critical aspects of business and the cybersecurity in terms of the secure web and cloud usage, in the threat detection and mitigation. How is it, security bringing closer to the user, specifically keeping the work from anywhere in mind? And of course, data is the new oil. So identifying and protecting this sensitive information is very critical. So Brijesh, I think I'm now good to put this heavy weight on you, because you are going to break the ice with SSE and also help us with managing these expectations that all of us has brought today. So over to you. Let's dig deeper into what's this story. You can share your presentation as well.
So thanks, Harsh, and I hope my screen is visible, presentation is visible to everyone.
Very much.
So I'll be starting with the small story, right? How the security service edge as a platform evolved. Okay, and I'll maybe start from a story which I have used the last time as well, when I was typically demystifying the SASE piece of it. Okay, so I think transformation is one thing which I think everyone understood over the period of time, but what are the different transformations, if we see those are okay? Because digital transformation is there, but for an organization, they also go and bifurcate those transformations into different segments, right? So when the people have moved and started adopting applications, right, there was a transformation which has happened on the 3 layer. Okay, so what those 3 layers are: internet has changed and moved into not only certain domains and sites, it emerged as a adoptions of more applications. We started using applications with Box, Dropbox, G drives, and other different applications. Then there are services which started focusing on delivering as a SaaS platform. So a simple example is an Office 365, right? The intent is that we all was using on-premise Exchange. We moved to the cloud because Microsoft says, boss, I will not give you Exchange more. You have this service, you can go and use this service. You will have A, B, C, D benefits. You presented this to your board, board says, okay, good. We are saving on these much dollars. So let's go and move to and adopt Office 365. And the third thing is your workloads, which your servers, which you are hosting on-premise. You have to maintain each and everything. You have to maintain the data center, physical space. You have to maintain your racks. You have to maintain your power. You have to maintain each and everything for maintaining that service, which may have a hardware cycle of maybe 4 years, 5 years, and then you have to reinvest every time on those hardware. Okay, so that's a one transformation which moved to the cloud piece of it. The second transformation which has happened, which was expected to grow till 2025, when it was led down in 2019, right? When the concept of zero trust, SASE started in 2018 and 2019, the thought was that by 2025, we will see a trend where the mobility will increase more, adoptions will be increased more, people will start working from anywhere. That was 2025 plan, but it all happened in 2020, 2021, and now in 2022, right? 3 years ahead, because pandemic came, it's accelerated everything, right? And in a chemistry, we say you put a catalyst and catalyst will increase the chemical process. And that's what has happened. Okay. So the people has started moving from now anywhere. Okay. So they are working from home. They are working from office. There is the hybrid piece, which they are doing. And they typically work while they are roaming and maybe they are at the airport locations. Okay. So this all hybrid workforce, cloud transformations are the transformations which are happening. So if I'll say bifurcate it into a similar term, so there's a cloud transformation, there's a network transformation, because when the people is out, your applications are out, why you want to still create a bottleneck of taking your entire traffic back to your data center? Okay, so you need some network transformations. And then user also transformed, and now the people talking about, can I understand what users are doing? And we gone into technologies like employee productivity monitoring, user behaviors monitoring when they are working from anywhere. Okay, so if we say applications move, people move. Now, when applications move, people move. What they were accessing till this time was accessing a data. Data will also move along with it. Now, data is not only there within your data centers, it's there in Office 365, AWS S3 buckets, your Azure blobs. Okay, and internet was replacing the enterprise. Why internet was replacing? Because there was a telecom transformation which has happened. And if you see how we all are digitally connected, it's because of that telecom transformation. Okay, if Ambani boys, right, Ambani sons, okay, they have not launched Jio, we are still using maybe a very heavyweight internet, and we are still beyond those smaller speeds. And now we are talking about 4Gs, 5Gs, and now we have a 5Gs, right? We have multiple states in India which are using 5Gs. Okay, so that's how the thing was. But the challenge was that we were doing is, whenever we gone to a specific problem, we put a product to it. So when we seen something related to ransomware, we put something, a product for securing it. When we say, okay, it's a data leakage, let's put a DLP. If it's a 0-day, let's put a sandbox. So that was always the approach. Okay, and that approach typically brings more complexity in this transformations. Okay, because the things was not as it's previously are. And I think Harsh mentioned that when the transformation is happening, why can't you use these transformations for bringing the security as well? Okay, because hackers don't use now your x86 or your servers, they use cloud for delivering the threat. Okay, so that's the intent, that's where the complexity is, and that's typically has arisen because of the transformation. And it's not only limited to IT industry. The organizations which are own a heavily critical infrastructures, they adopt OT piece of it. They do some SCADA systems. They're also going into a complexity because they also have a mandate to be Industry 4.0 compliant. Okay, I'm not going into Industry 4.0. It needs us maybe some specific time. But the thought is these transformations is going on a very faster pace. Now I'm discussing with the customer where the customer says, okay, I have an OT environment. I want to take an OT logs back to my SIM, which I have procured as a service. Okay, now these are disjointed networks. Okay, so the complexity is increasing day by day. And as I mentioned, why the complexity is because there are different attributes when we are bringing a security till this time. There was locations, which are your branch office, headquarters, now your home. Okay. There are transformations which has moved to the cloud. Your users are accessing internet. They have to access SaaS applications, your Office 365, your SAP, Salesforce, ServiceNow. Everyone has to access something, right? Help desk people who was accessing something on-premise, now they have to access ServiceNow, okay, which is also a SaaS. Your admins, which are going and VPN back to your data centers, now they connect over the AWS and Azure and connect to your EC2 instances, okay? And then you have a private applications also, which till this time, we all are getting connected to a network-based access. We call it as a VPN. And we thought it's a very much secured thing. But I think breaches in the past has proven that VPN is not secure. Okay. If we go just two weeks back, we have seen Uber hack purely based on VPN. They were using multi-factor, but they still got breached. Okay. Now the complexity has increased because for every problem we have put a product, and every product comes with some control plane, some data plane, some alerts, too much to learn, too much skills to maintain. Skill is also a shortage. We all are hearing that it's very difficult to build that skill. And I think pandemic has also created that vacuum for building that skills. Okay. Because I have seen people are saying, okay, we have learned everything because every exam was online, right? When everything was online, I'm sure that what are the knowledge that they are getting over that. So there are too many products, and then regulations has increased over the period of time. Okay, now in India, we may now paused over the period of time with a delay on a privacy bill and all, but soon we will go and think from that regulation perspective in India, like what we have seen in GDPR in EU and other privacy piece of it. Okay, so and the people who was talking about, can I bring an automations? And I really sometimes get irritated when I heard people say, okay, I want to automate something. I want everything to be automated. But are we following an on-ground piece? Are we learning the concepts from an on-ground to automate it? Because if I don't have anything as a baseline, how I can automate? I don't know what are the outliers. I don't know how the things are changing over the period of time. And then your BYOD is also increased. Now, BYOD previously understood as just we go take our mobile, access something. In a pandemic, because of the supply chain, BYOD means your own laptop. Boss, you have your own laptop. Please connect over a VPN, start working. Okay, that's what the concept is. People has taken a desktop from their office and gone to their home and connecting back to the VPN at the pandemic time. Okay, so there was a mix of devices also. And now your users may also predict our different behaviors, right? And you are not sure because of maybe different thoughts. They may go disgruntled. They may be behind a very low security zone, so they may get compromised. Okay, there may be hackers which are coming back to you. Okay, but hackers typically will take a longest path. They will not try to just go and penetrate something from a data center. Easy thing is, if I have to penetrate into an organization where Harsh is working, I'll say, let me go and compromise Harsh machine. It's easy for me to take an access. Okay, so these are all complexity which was there from a security piece of it. Now let's see how this complexity needs to be resolved, and that's where the Gartner in 2019 coiled this term of SASE. Okay, that there is a framework of secure access service edge, that we will bring a secure access as a service which should be sit as close to the edge. So when you say as close to the edge means when you're inside the office, it should be with your office piece. When you are roaming, it should be closer to your laptop. Okay. So the edge, the security should be closer to it. And then there are different white papers over the things has evolved in the last few years. Gartner talked about and called the new terms, which I'll be introducing today. And then it evolved over the period of time. That concept is fine. We have a framework, is fine. But how that framework will be converted into a platform. Okay. And that's what I'll be decoding today, layer by layer. But before that, let's understand. Let's make it more interactive. And let's understand from you what you understand, what that SSA is, what that SSC is. So let me bring maybe a one opinion poll for that. Hush. Let's do that opinion poll.
I hope poll is visible to everyone and quickly share your opinion.
Sure, I think.
So what is not SSC related security capability? So we see certain buzzwords here. Okay. Still for a normal layman, it's a buzzword. It's still not a technologies. So it be CASB, SWIG, SD-WAN, ZTNA. Which of the security capability is not part of an SSC?
I think it's not a very direct question, but people may be checking on Google, so they're taking 2 seconds.
No problem, no problem.
But I think
Google also confuse you. Google do not give you an answer correct.
That is the reason we should ask this to Brijesh. But I think interesting. I think people definitely till now feel that secure web gateway is one of the critical SSC capability. But
if I get a chance, I also want to change the name of the SSA to be more than just secure access. And I'll tell you at the last why. Because it's more than access.
Let me just tell everyone one thing. During our warm-up session also, Brijesh has this habit to create such a, kind of amazing and interesting trailer that we just wait for the real movie. And Brijesh is still in that mode. He's keeping on our toes to wait till the end of what would be the term SASE should have been coined. So
people watch web series all season only because of that curiosity.
Oh my God. So you're giving those hints now.
A possibility to compete with OTT has one more area for CG.
Okay, so we got all the answers checked in, or
we'll just wait for 20 more seconds.
Okay.
It's okay to have a wrong answer. It's okay to also cheat a bit, but we'll have 15 more seconds of all of you sharing your views. Do that, please. Okay, someone feels a secure web gateway is not one of the SSC capabilities. So we are having now a varied answer. Interesting. I think it's okay. We had enough of sample of.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think 58% says SD-WAN is not a technology of SSC. 25% says that ZTN is not a part of an SSC. I think SWIG and CASB has a tie because 8% both says that they are not part of an SSC. So I'll pause and let me introduce what the SSA is and the SSA is. Sorry. So now evolution of a SSC and WSC. Now you were thinking that we started with an SSC, what that WSC is, right? So the SASE, which is Secure Access Service Edge, was, as I mentioned, purely laid down as a foundation of that connectivity and the security needs to be converged, or the network and security needs to be converged. And that's what called down by Gartner in 2019. Okay. And at that time, a year before, there was a concept which was also laid down by Forrester, which is zero trust. Okay. And I thought that without explaining a zero trust, if I go and jump directly to an SSC, it's not the right way, right? Because we all have our own interpretation of the zero trust, and that's what I'll be covering first before I go and bringing all the building blocks of the SSE. But when the SASE evolved, Gartner thought and think that still security and connectivity brings the bigger piece, but can I go and segregate the security into a different platform and connectivity into a different platform? And that's what laid down the foundation of security service edge. And that's happened in the last year. So the security service edge was brought as a platform. Okay. And I want to give you a clarity that the platform and product is two different things. So when you adopt a product, you adopt a product just based on the features, based on the capabilities and all. But when it's a platform, there are things which are visible to you. There are things which are not visible to you. Okay, I'll say Netflix as a platform. Content on the Netflix is visible to you, but what is running behind the Netflix over an AWS is not visible to you. Okay, so platform has other things as well, because it's comprised of infra, softwares, virtualizations, connectivities. They're each and every part of the technology which we all have learned in the last 18 plus 20 years that goes into a platform piece. So security service edge comprised of different technologies, keeping in mind that we will provide an end-to-end security which is required for a user to do his daily task. We want to secure his when he's going to an open internet and access something, maybe as simple as going over to a Facebook and checking certain content, maybe going to a YouTube and checking certain content. Or they go and access certain applications which may not be sanctioned. And we all know that shadow IT risk is the another risk which we have already seen in the organizations of so many years, where every organization unknowingly may use more than 2000 plus applications which are not sanctioned. And that's what is the shadow IT risk. And then for securing their managed applications, which they have procured over the period of time, CASB comes into picture. And CASB was not new technology, started from 2014 onwards, right? But it attained its maturity curve over the period of time. Okay. And people started talking about, can I secure my cloud applications? If I procured Office 365, if I procured Salesforce, if I procured ServiceNow, can I have a single broker which can help me in securing when I access it from maybe a known laptop, unknown laptops for historical data? And then the ZTNA comes into picture, and people think, okay, zero trust till this time was a security model. We got a baby of zero trust, which is ZTNA. Everything will be resolved. Everything will be zero trust if we go out of zero trust networks. That's not the case. ZTNA is a one piece of a network access where the zero trust concept has been implemented. And sometimes I think that it should not be a network access, because on the ground, it's not a network access. It's an application access. So we were using a VPN, which was a network access, and it has converted back to a application access, because the thought was, if I need an application, why I need a network? I can just go connect to an application. Let's move from a technology which is purely a VPN based to a proxy based, because proxy was doing from so many years a application based technology. Okay, so that's what we understand from a ZTN. And then because we were going into a space where maybe a user needs to connect something which may be on non-web, non-HTTP, okay, and we want to inspect the ports which may be not only a web ports. So can we have something as a firewall, right? Because if they are working from home, where they are not behind the data centers, can they go and inspect it on other ports as well? Okay. And then this is what the access layer is. But what more? And as Harsh mentioned, that we have to uncover that what after the access. When you go and access something, you exchange certain files, you download something, you upload something. Can I go and understand the threat context? Okay. Can I go and understand what are the content which is getting transferred? Because our data is there. Now our data is there in the Salesforce. Our data is there in Office 365. Can we have a visibility of what we're calling as just a DLP? Can this also DLP maturity which has developed in the last 15 plus years, can also be added to this platform, and that's where the data security comes into picture. But the laid foundation is the zero trust. Okay. Now this is the security piece of it. But what is completing the SASE? And if you see what is out of SASE, which was the polling question, is your SDN. Right? So it says it's a brother, two brothers from the same mother. Okay. But SG1 was there earlier than 2018 as well. Okay, but he didn't get more attention. He's not a pampered child. And the new child which came, SSC, is now a pampered child. Right? So SG1 was there because it was doing a network transformations. People are moving from central internet zone to a local breakouts. They were focusing on, can I secure my local breakouts, still access my application in a faster way, still provides the security based on that. And that's what is a WAN service edge. So what Gartner has done is it segregated it to, one is a security service edge, which purely focuses on the security piece of it. And other is a SG-WAN, secure SG-WAN piece of it, which talks about from a connectivity piece of it. And which typically talk about convergence of convergence. Okay. And that's what was the complete architecture of the SASEs. Okay. Because there are the things, there are the branches, there are the local breakouts where you still require your applications to be accessed in a faster way. You want to segregate a traffic, an internet bound traffic and your application bound traffic. Okay. So that's what SSC and WSC involve. Now let's go deeper into and let's see how the architecture will look like. If this problem needs to be resolved, how the SSC architecture looks like. So what we have created, and I think we all understand that till this time, the security was all about trusted and untrusted. And yesterday I was in discussion with one of the large enterprise and he was saying, Brijesh, I'm using Office 365. I have an conditional access from Azure AD. I have segregated something as my trusted IPs, which are my network IPs, and an untrusted IP, which is not my network IP. Now, can you tell me how I can go and enforce my security to my applications? Or maybe my security to my private application? So my first statement was, you can't resolve a problem if you still think it's trusted and untrusted. Because zero trust says nothing is trusted. You have to always verify. Okay. And that's where the two zones has been established. The one zone where your user is sitting, where your servers are, and now in an OT world, your applications are. So you are behind a branch, you are behind an office. You may be accessing something from a managed laptop, managed machines. You may be something accessing from a mobile, which may be unmanaged, or your own personal device. And then on the right-hand side, you have to access something which is there over the internet, something which your company has taken as a service from any cloud vendor, or maybe a workload over an AWS, Azure and all. And you also have to access your private applications, which may be hosted inside the data center, or maybe you have to move to the workload. So this is the zero trust zone. Now, what goes into this zero trust zone? There is some inspections that needs to be there, right? You can easily understand that when we enter an airport, we move from one zone to another zone, and we have to pass through all the security checks. Okay. So let's understand what those security checks, right? And how we build the zero trust architecture. So now the zero trust approach has also evolved over the period of time. So when in 2018, Forrester started this, it was saying data was as a core, and this data was accessed by different networks, different devices, different applications, different users. Let's build a zero trust behind this factor into each and every component. And before that, in earlier of 2018, there was a framework which launched, which was CARTA. And in the last time also, I mentioned that continuous adaptive risk and trust assessment. So risk and trust, two constant variables of an organization, on which you go and spend millions of dollars needs to be continuously assessed and monitored. Okay. Now, whether those move down to technologies like device posture, host checking, that's a different thing. That's a way of solving that problem. But the problem is risk, which is related to your data, and trust, which is related to your user, needs to be continuously assessed. And that's where it's moved to, can we do a shift left? Can we move to more proactive in nature? Okay, rather than just reactive. And then NIST talked about certain principles, certain tenets, certain rules, that what that zero trust architecture looks like. So it says it needs to be continuously monitored. It should be adaptive in nature. Based on the risk, the controls needs to be adaptive. If Vijay is coming from a known location, he may get one type of access. If he's coming from an unknown location, he may get other type of an access. And location should not be just limited to IP. IP is not the parameter. And we know what the parameter is. I think Harsh in the starting mentioned that identity. Identity is the parameter. Okay, and we'll understand that as well. So those are the different white papers written over the zero trust approach. Some talking about the frameworks from which it derived, Kata. Some talk about the parameters of it. Some talk about the pillars of it. But 2 years back, CISA has talked that people are adopting zero trust in some another way. Some are adopting it maybe through a multi-factor authentication as a technology. Some are adopting as a NAC as a technology. When I go to people and say, okay, are you adopting zero trust? It says, oh, we have this vendor NAC and we are doing purely zero trust. Okay. Some people says, okay, I have this vendor MDM and we are focusing on zero trust. Some says we do a multi-factor authentication, we do software-based tokens, we do SMS, everything we'll do, and we have a zero trust. Okay. But that's still, we again going back to the technology. We are not understanding this holistically. And that's what built by CISA is a maturity model to simplify it. Every organization, I'll not go more deeper into it. It may require 2 hours, 3 hours just to explain the maturity model. I'll share your white paper, maybe I'll share, read it out. It's very good paper, which talk about a maturity model to simplify it. And the maturity model says that there are pillars. There are pillars of zero. There are pillars: identity, your device, your network and environment, your applications and workloads, your data. These all pillars needs to be focused from a zero trust perspective. So it should not be only on a one layer. It should not be only on a one parameter. And then you can have a visibility all across these pillars. You have an analytics all across these pillars. Once you have that, once you have a baseline, once you have an analytics, then definitely it will bring an automations. It can bring an orchestrations. And you have a common governance platform, which may goes on to a GRC principles and all, right? But governance needs to be built on these pillars. And what I'll be going into in each and every pillar, because I somehow feel that if I'll not touch these pillars and directly jump to an SSC, I will not justify to this session. Okay. So the first and the foremost is identity. The identity needs to be continuously validated. Now it needs to be continuously validated when you are accessing an application. It's as simple as that. There's an agent sitting in the machine. It monitors your compliance check. It monitors every time when you go and check something. It monitors maybe after a specific interval. And based on your activities, it gives you some kind of a risk, some kind of a score, good and bad. Okay. And the risk anyhow needs to be reduced over the period of time. If everything is good. And it also increase and elevate over the period of time. If it's continuous maintaining the bad. Okay. So identity plays a major role, and that's why the people started adopting solutions like into an IDP, right? And the focus was, let me bring identity, which is a new parameter across my all the applications. Let me integrate with my private applications, my cloud applications and all that. And what it's giving to you is, because identity is closely associated to a user, it's give you a user context. And we all are learning from the last 4-5 years, at least I am learning that security needs to be built over the context. You can't just build security just to a trusted, untrusted, or to a content. It has to be evolved over to the context piece. And that's where identity giving you a user context. And with the user context, you can drive sub automations. You'll say, if it's a high risky, let me enforce these controls. If it's a medium risk, let me enforce these controls. So that's what identity is giving you. So if we are focusing on a zero trust, if we are focusing on SSC without an identity, I think we are not starting from a right place. Okay. That's very important. So the second thing is a device. Now, device is always a cat and mouse game. And I think as a consultant, when I talk to people, people says that device security validations is one piece of it, but there are so many operating systems. Every organization's using OTS operating system. Some will say, as a vendor A, do you support OS this? Do you support Linux? Do you support Unix? Do you support VM Horizon? Do you support AWS VDI? Do you support Azure VDI? Okay, we all are saying cat and mouse, and some vendor says, okay, sir, we have all the agents. Some vendor says we are going to an agentless piece. But the thought is, how we'll make sure that we go and monitor that device. Okay. With agent, without agent, there are parameters which can be used to understand how these devices are connected to your applications, okay, or to your internet, or to your private application. So there are different attributes, and that's where your device postures come into picture. So you monitor the device based on your domains, based on the certificate, based on the registry, based on maybe a SAML certificate, based on the process, file path. And so device is where, as a next layer, you have to put the zero trust. So the first layer, identity. Identity needs to be associated to device. Now device are typically shared. So you can't go and fix it to a one because of the sharing piece, maybe in BPO. So it has to be then monitored based on the user. So at a particular time, who the user is, what the device is, what is the location is, all those attributes needs to become from a zero trust piece. And the third is an application. And that applications where the things has moved from shadow IT. Can I bring a visibility? What are getting access within my network? Bring your zero trust here. Focus on what are the application access. Segregate them, tag them between your sanction and unsanction. Because unless you don't identify and say, this is my sanction, this is my unsanction, how you will drive the risk? When you don't get to know, when you have not done an analysis, what are the shadow IT risks? What are the applications getting access? What are the uploads, downloads it's happening? It's do not give you any visibility. And that's where your application security comes into picture. Now, enforcement can be through a managed device, unmanaged device, but analysis, because in a security, what you see, what you protect. If you don't see, you can't protect. You say all is well, but you can't protect. So application is the third piece of it. The fourth is data. Okay. And I think data security, data context has evolved over the period of time. Okay. It's not only just few regex, few templates which are driving the data. Data is now moved to machine learning, where the classifiers, the types can be trained over the period of time. Okay. It talks about your fingerprinting hashes. It talks about your different matches. And it has moved to not just securing your channels, which was previously there, your parameters, which are previously there, but securing your users on the go, securing your applications, your historical data, securing your private applications. When the people connect to your private applications, you also want to secure the data movements. Okay. So data has also evolved. So data is also the one critical layer which needs to be part of a zero trust piece. How you make sure when you are accessing and providing an access to a data, it has to be on the zero trust piece. And when you can do that, when you're aware what the identity is, when you're aware what the network is, when you're aware what the application is, then only the data can make sense, right? So all the three which we discussed previously are important. Now, from a network piece of it, we talked about, can we do some kind of a micro segmentation? Can we segregate that if we need only an application access, my user should go and access that on a least access privilege, right? We all heard in our security certifications that least privilege, least privilege, least privilege. But we all are doing all network privilege, putting an access list, and then saying it was a least privilege. Okay, so the ZTNA as a concept started that if I want to access an application, let you go and publish that application, and only a specific user have an access to it. So if it's a normal user, he can access it over a web. If it's an admin, he can do an SSH. He can do an RDP. User can do a file sharing. I can go and access my domain. Okay, so the broker concept, which was there on the cloud, was also being introduced to a connector which is sitting nearest to your application. And the thought was, if you're accessing from a managed device, still your machine, your device will be checked. Your location will be checked. So the zero trust, which you are implementing on the network, still starts from your user piece. Okay. And then definitely you enforce your threat context and data context within the ZTNA also. Okay. That was the main thought of bringing the ZTNA piece. And that's why I said, if I have to change that name, I'll not say it's a ZTNA because it's not a network access. It's an application access. And the other thing where it's also adopted is the SD-WAN. Okay, so on a networking, there are two things. One, when you put a ZTNA, you also need to cover your roaming user. You also need to cover your branches, because branches till this time was doing an MPLS back to your data center accessing it. Okay, so SD-WAN was also focused in that with the zero trust approach, I will bring a quality of service. I can still able to prioritize which application I should be able to consume within my those bandwidth, which is there in my branch. Okay, and that's where the SD-WAN. Some customer says, if I have a ZTNA, do I need SD-WAN? If I have an SSC, do I need SD-WAN? Now, SD-WAN is bringing you a quality of service. SD-WAN is helping you in aggregating your bandwidths, giving you a logical pipe. SD-WAN is helping you in optimizing your resources, still giving you a faster access. Okay. And the ZTNA is saying, if you need a faster access to an application, don't worry. I will come to you and give you an access. And the typical example is when we go to any organization for a meeting, you don't go to the desk of a user for a meeting. There's a meeting rooms outside there. You go to a meeting room, that guy will also come to a meeting room. You all do that discussions within that zero trust zone. Okay, so that's what is a typical example of a ZTNA as well. So that's what the 5 pillars, which has to be matured in any organizations, and the thought needs to be put across while adopting SSC. Okay, and now what that SSC is. So SSC as a solution was purely focused on a business outcome, and starting with the zero trust that verify every user, validate every device, and limit their access. And the thought was never trust, always verify. And the intent was, the business outcome was to reduce overall risk. And let's understand how the user at this time go and access something on a daily basis. So if Brijesh is a user and he wants to connect to an internet. Now, as I mentioned, that internet is comprised of not only domains, multiple applications. So Brijesh may access something from a managed device. I go and connect something from my official laptops, maybe as simple as connects to a Dell.com or maybe Gmail.com, or maybe going and connecting to a specific site. Or I also use my personal device, or I have a contractor who came to my office and wants to connect to internet. So what is the technology which we all was using to secure the internet was secure web gateway. We all was using proxy. Now those proxy needs to now understand more application aware. They should not only just limit it to domain and all. And that's what was securing the internet piece. And then the adoptions of cloud, we all discussed. People started using Office 365, G Suite, Workday. There are n number of applications. On a daily basis, whenever I'll talk to customer, I get to know so many different names of the applications. Applications like Zoho, applications like Bitsoft, HubSpot. There are so many applications which I also learn on a daily basis what they are doing. Okay. So the concept was, can I go and secure my SaaS? Can I go and secure my IS? Okay. And the concept which led down based on that was CASB. Let's put a broker. And that broker will provide me a multi-mode support that protect me from a managed device, that protect me from an unmanaged device, that protect my historical data by an API call, which is residing in my application. And the third thing was, which was really getting network access, VPN access, my private application. And that's what we have understood just now, that it has to be secured on the private apps. So as soon as we say these technologies come, there's a zero trust foundation come. So all those 5 pillars which we have understood has been led down to this foundation of this architecture, which was focusing on unified policies management, risk analytics, after understanding those 5 pillars, single unified way of delivering it, and at least with a unified agent, with the less footprint. Agent should not be heavy, because every time when you go to customer and talk about an agent, it says, boss, I already have 5 agents. Okay. And the vendors like EDI is coming with their own agent, XDR is coming with their own agents, DLP is coming with their own agents. Okay. So can I consolidate? Okay. And that's where this architecture evolved. And that's the first piece where the access got established. Okay. You got established that access through secure web gateway, maybe CASB, maybe firewall, maybe through a ZTNA. And the intent was it has to be 100% cloud. It should be delivered from multiple POP. It should support hybrid workforce. It should have not much dependency on the skill set. It should be easy. It should be simplified in nature. Okay. It should not be too many fragmented products. That was the lead foundation of the SSC. And the intent was attackers out sensitive data. Now, ideally, if these 3-4 technologies was there, it should be resolving, and we all are saying SSC. But the story do not stop here. Right? There are different seasons within a web series, right? So, and that's where the thing started. But the concept of doing this is just to reduce the overall cost, bringing something which is architecture, platform in nature. And that's where the first thing which started is the threat context. Threat context. Okay, so the threat context which came was, can I bring a threat protection? Can I bring something which should be zero trust when I'm accessing a web? And the technologies was there. Okay, there was technologies which was doing a web isolations. There was technologies which was doing certain content disarmament. Okay, the thought was, can we bring those advanced technologies back to this platform? And that's where the led the foundation of zero trust web access, where we will not trust the destination. If the destination is good and bad, we will isolate destinations to a virtual browser. In market, we maybe call as a web isolation, remote browser isolation, whatever the name will be, depending on vendor to vendor. But the thought was, I will not trust the web access and execute that web into a virtual browser and make sure that it should protect me from any zero day. And not only that, people started talking about, if I go and download something within that zero trust, I should also get a content which is 100% malware free. And people started talking about either a sandbox, either maybe disarm content service. There are different technologies associated. But the intent was, every connection which is established needs to be checked on the threat level, just to reduce the overall risk, just to make sure we are compliant from that perspective. And the third was, which was more difficult, was data, because that was the core. That's what you will get your budget approval when you go and to your board and say, this is the data is on the risk. Okay. And that's where the data security comes. And it's also moved to a zero trust, because it's now not only just to limit your endpoint, email and web, it has moved to your clouds. You can protect your data when the user is accessing something from a managed device, unmanaged device. You can protect the data if it's accessing your private application. So it goes to each and every layer from a data piece of it. And definitely the intent was to reduce the risk and streamline compliance. But The thought was not to reinvent the wheel. Thought was not to just to create an engine of a data from a day one. Just to thought the maturity curve which has evolved in the last 15 plus years in the data needs to have absorbed within this platform. Okay, and that's what this architecture of the SSC looks like. Okay, and that's what it brings back a business value to any organization. It brings the zero trust adoption. It focus on explicit security. It not at all focus of anything which is implicit in nature, because it has all the attributes. What previously we were doing, we were taking certain logs from web, we were taking certain logs from CASB, we are taking certain logs from private apps, putting that to a SIM, putting a UEBA and all. Now this platform, it says, if I have a technologies which is onboarded on this SSC, I can give you a unified analytics. And because this concept was direct to cloud, I do not need to backhaul to your data centers. It was increasing the productivity. Okay, so people who says, okay, I have to connect to a VPN, over the VPN, my things go slow. I only do an entry within a SAP, maybe 5 entries within an hour. With the direct to cloud, they were started doing maybe 9 and 10 entries, maybe double, which increased their productivity. And overall TCO, overall complexity, overall cost has been reduced. Complexity has been reduced because you don't need to go into multiple hardwares, you don't need to go in multiple integrations, you don't need to maintain something on your on-premise piece of it, all delivered as a service. You pay and use. Okay, so that's what the SSC is. Now I'm sure in the last 35-40 minutes, there's so much things which has gone to your mind, and I'm sure you have certain questions based on that. So let's have certain interactive discussions on the Q&A piece.
I think Brijesh has already, kind of helped us with this step by step and a very interesting story of SSC, the pampered and the security child of SASE, but at the same time with the foundation of zero trust, another learning curve for all. So quite interesting session, but at the same time, yes, happy to take some queries in.
Participants, you can put in your queries in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and come one by one.
Brajesh, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brajesh, the question is, I think, do you think we are making a hype of security unnecessary and threatening the people by creating multiple layers? See, I can understand that we need secured environment since we are going into open environment. But still, the way things are moving on, I think earlier we used to talk about the products. Okay, now we started talking about the services. And then we suddenly started talking about that we need dual factor authentication, we need the threat against the mail, we have a threat against mail, we have a threat against malware, we have a threat against this against that, and then you start putting multiple layers, and that is directly impacting the overall performance of the application, or maybe even the threat is in the people.
So what I'll say, I think it's purely depend on organization to organization. I'll not say that it's just an hype, right? Because if you see from the last few years, right? I think every time when we see something, we see some kind of a new attack, new factors. Okay, hackers day in, day out, thinking of new ideas on penetrating into an organizations which may have invested so much on the security piece of it. And I'll not name the organization, but it happened last night as well to an organization which I'm sure has invested a lot on the security piece of it. On the security piece of it, still they were not able to secure it, because whenever we go and talk about a security, and that's my own learning, moving from a network background into a security, understood something on the server side of it. It's all depend on how well you understand your organizations, how well you understand your gates. If I don't understand the gates of my home, I don't know where I have to put a camera, where I have to put a lock, Okay, what are the device I'm using, to understanding who is coming. Okay, so all those plays their own important role. Why multi-factor came? Because maybe a single factor was not able to prove that he's the right user. Okay, and then we all understand then there are different levels of factors or identities which are available. So I'll not say, see, when a vendor comes to you, they may give you 10 different examples from a risk perspective. But how the organizations are collaborating, and I think I always appreciate these communities which are built for CISOs, CIOs, and to that CyberGurukul, is to bring the awareness. The point is not to bring a terror or a threat, is to bring an awareness that in my organizations, you will see similar to your domain is any organizations which got impacted. Okay, and that bring you more clarity, because if we see something has happened in power, every power industry will then listen to it, right? Because something happened in my domain. If something happened in a BFSI, everyone started focusing on a BFSI. So my thought is, and I'll be very honest in communicating it, if you understand your organization better, if you understand your entry and exit points, if you understand that what are the access controls you have provided, you may not need too much security. Now, security has also been adopted because of the business accelerations. Technology is helping a business to scale at a faster pace. And I can give you an examples like Uber. I can give you examples like Ola. I have to give you an example like Groffer, Blinkit. There's so many examples which have used technology and security to scale up in the business side. So that the answer is short. The intent is not to create a security hype, but just to learn, give you an understanding. Yes, there are various ways which our hackers are using to penetrate it. And there are ways to protect that as well. That maybe you're protecting it from technology A, B, C, D. It's up to you. And it's totally depend on how you are granting an access to your users.
And I think Satish must appreciate you playing the devil's advocate, but a very, very critical, I think, concern that everyone does, think on. But yes, Brijesh, threat is real, and the security definitely, I think, has been a learning curve for all. So yes, we do not, security doesn't intend to scare, but yeah, still it's something which is still to be really understood from different aspects.
So, Brajesh, what I realized is, I think when we keep talking about these technologies, the skill sets are missing. People are not aware of even security people are not aware of, because they live a life of stereotype thought process.
Correct.
Okay. And the key thing which is missing when we actually keep talking about these technologies or concept is monitoring and awareness.
Yeah.
Okay. They keep adding the product, but the skill sets are not available. They don't know how to monitor these and analyze these and then get the output out of it. The product may be powerful, but the result may be zero.
Correct. And that's where, because I have taken a hat of being a customer, being a consultant. So I know as a consultant, when I go, people say, can you give me these features? They don't talk about business objectives. I'll tell you. They talk about features. And that's where we miss the bus.
Correct.
If we talk about our business objective, whether they are doing with technology A, technology B, you can always see whether the technology has attained its maturity curve or not. That's a different thing. Maybe technology is too new, maybe 2-3 years old. So two things which, if I am a customer, will always focus on: what is my business objective? What is my risk appetite? Based on my risk appetite, I will get the spending from my board. And based on that, I will go and spend. And then I'll choose a technology. Okay, so those are the factors which I think if everyone understands, and I'll think collaboration is the key. If we collaborate more and get out of our insecurities, I'll tell you, this cybersecurity world is also a bit insecure.
Correct.
Right? We all understand, because previously when we started our piece, we have seen where people says, don't touch a router, it may break. Don't touch a switch, it may break. Okay. A network guys was saying server is nothing. Now servers guys who are on AWS and Azure saying network is nothing. Right? So if we all get rid of our insecurities and collaborate more, collaboration has that power to change anything. And that's where on the dark side, on the hacker side, people collaborate. On the good side, people don't collaborate. If we start doing it, we will always be ahead of actor, and then only we will go and achieve shift left. More proactive. That's important.
John, if you want to raise some question, you may please proceed. Anyone else?
I think Brijesh, so true. Just like attack don't happen in silos. Technology today cannot remain in silos, and that's the platform story where it comes in. But collaboration is equally the key, and I hope that CyberGurukul is playing its bit of role. And of course, we all need to collaborate that ways. And equally critical with the discussion of Satish and Brijesh, as much as we are focusing on the technical skill sets, of course, that's also something where we are investing. Let's also stay, to the, map these to your business. What is your business objective? What is your risk appetite? So the business skills, becomes equally critical. So yeah, I think amazing thoughts that way, Vijay. I think since we do not have...
Just to quote some interesting example. Okay,
Satish.
when we work in when we look at the police says this doesn't come under my zone. Okay, and same way, I think typically if you go to IT environment, application is one zone, security is second zone, infrastructure is third zone. Okay, information services fourth zone. So, but they don't collaborate, and that is where the whole attack happens. So there is some loophole which left because they don't want to share the information with the other department.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why the concepts laid down just as a theory.
So this unified command which Brijesh is pushing, okay, is required in cybersecurity also, and really the business objective is
always horizontally touches every function, not only A, B, or C.
Absolutely.
I think Pavan has also shared his views, but I think we can just read that.
Yeah, that's the issue with CTO and CIO, but they are the next CEO. Okay. So,
anyways, but I think Satish, I think a really very good analogy of the police and the IT zones that is. So
that's the beauty of Satish.
True, very true. So I think Satish, Vijaya, Pavan, Toha, I think we had some interesting discussions along with the other CG members also that has joined today. And Brijesh, I must say there's so much that, we actually learned before, the simplified delivery that SSC brought. Of course, the simplification in the concept as well as the application, how we can move ahead. We did take, a lot of takeaways in the story format, which I'm sure all of us loves. So thank you so much, Brijesh. What I'll do is I'll just take a minute or two to also sum up, what we learned today and anyone can also add on. So with Brijesh, we did start witnessing this multi-dimensional transformation in terms of the cloud network data, but also in terms of the user. We can talk about the hybrid workforce that he mentioned. And yes, it's so true that with every problem, we have brought a new product, but then it has also attracted certain complexities in terms of the control, data, skill sets, alerts, and of course, the burden of 3S, the siloed visibilities, the skill set shortage, and let's not forget the sophisticated threats. We did cover a bit on BYOD and regulations also that time. And yes, some very amazing analogies to explain platform versus product, like the Netflix, SSE being a pampered child, but yes, SD-WAN also needs its bit. And I think even Satish really had a very interesting analogy on the police versus the IT zone. So thank you so much for that. We also did, embark the journey of SASE and decoded a bit on the use cases around CASB, Secure Web Gateway, and ZTNA. With the magnifying glass of the threat, context, the secure access, the data protection aspect, and much more. And yes, I think we all, with the opinion poll, do realize how SASE versus SSE story, kind of stands in terms of the SD-WAN technology. So I'm sure this is something which no one will forget. We also, then understood about more on the evolved zero trust zone. So it's time to break the myth. There is no trusted versus untrusted zone, because we can never trust and we always have to verify every aspect, right? And risk and trust, these are the foundation. We need that continuous assessment and monitoring over here. And of course, these are the building blocks to that proactive security strategy that Brijesh mentioned, and also the adaptive controls that is equally the requirement. Visibility and analytics go first before the automation, and then comes the governance. So let us not forget, this kind of aspect also, because automation, of course, is the key today, but we also need to understand it has to be an intelligent automation. So this is how it has to go. Then we, of course, understood the exact, building blocks to SSE, with the ZTA being the key pillar. So, securing your users. So that means identity is the parameter being one of the critical element. Device validation being another one over here. Application security, data security, and network. Let us not forget these. And of course, limiting the access. And then this story got completed with the architecture convergence of secure web gateway, CASB, and ZTNA. And the most important, the business outcome that it has to deliver in terms of reducing the cost, the risk, the complexity, and the platform architecture, streamlining the compliance. So next time, when we try to understand on SSE, let us focus on what is our business objective, what is our risk appetite, with, of course, keeping in mind these three keywords: access, threat, and data. And I think overall, this SSE, maturity model, it ensures the aim is to have that explicit security and direct to the cloud. ZTA adoption, and of course, the most important, balancing the user security and productivity hand in hand with the simplified delivery. So I think quite takeaways for us today, and the feed for thought. Brijesh, amazing session. So much we could learn. I think I'm sure everyone would concur with that, and we already have started getting some wonderful comments. Thank you so much, Brijesh. Before we have your final words, Vijaya, Satish, would you like to add something? Just few 30 seconds for Brijesh.
Well, I hope Brijesh has given this series session beautifully, and he must have kept something interesting for next session. I really like the priority part by business instead of focus on the features and cost saving to get some approval from board. So these are interesting things when we push or we want to adopt these kind of high reach terminologies or theories in our organization. That is going to really help. Thank you, Brijesh, for your detailed insight.
Thank you so much, Vijaya. Satish, final thoughts, 30 seconds for Brijesh.
Very interesting session, but I think we need to, I think the important point which we covered is security is horizontally touching all the functions. So it has to be a complete collaboration rather than working in isolation. So getting technology is never an issue, because technology is going to grow and hackers are much smarter than the technology. Okay, so you need to monitor and make people aware that this is a new threat, and we need to gear up to make the people handle those kind of threats.
Very much, very much. Totally in sync, Satish. Yes, Brijesh.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think some really good example I learned last night in one event. So I thought before I conclude, I'll share it. So from a focus point perspective, what you, Satish, just mentioned from a threat piece, and that's where the people are now focusing on that. Okay, there are amount of things goes into a SOC piece. People have put us incident analysis who are maintaining a SOC, but the threat prioritization is the other key element, which is getting missed, right? And I was listening to someone where it says at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the night to a hospital doctor, there are two patients came, one with the scar on his thigh and one with heart attack symptoms. And the doctor is saying, I will look after to the one which came early because it has a scar on his thigh, right? So the point is threat prioritization is also a key element, right? And that's where the collaborations, right? Collaborations come, because you can't just factor a threat just from a one technology, because it may have touched the multiple points to it. So I really agree to you that bringing a technology was not at a problem, but how to collaborate it more with the simplified way of adopting it through a service rather than maybe investing too much on the hardware and other thing is the way to go. Okay, and I'm sure as the things are evolving, the intent is to just have a better way to analyze the threat, understand the context. But I always say it only happen if I know what is my baseline, if I know what I do, what I have. Okay, so with that, I'll conclude this, but thanks for CyberGurukul. I think the sessions like this, it's always great a learning for everyone with the new things, with the new questions, with the interactions that we are doing. So keep doing it, keep shining, and best of luck.
Brajesh, one more point you missed is people behavior, apart from the technology.
Correct, correct.
I think
Absolutely.
today, if you look at many products of security which are coming with analyzing the people behavior,
Absolutely.
which actually leads to analyzing the future threat.
Yeah. So we say in our concept that it's not only just about indicators of compromise. Now, the things are building of indicators of behaviors. There are databases which are getting built for indicators of behaviors.
Correct.
If users are depicting like this, what is the indications? Okay, so that's what things will do. And I'll tell you, the commercial world will absorb multiple things from a defense or a critical infrastructures. And the critical infrastructures will absorb multiple things which is evolved over the commercial. So now these two industries are getting collaborated.
Correct.
That's what is happening now.
Definitely.
So Harsh, we can go on and on, but I think with the time, let's conclude it. Yeah.
We can go on and on. Yes, sorry, Satish, you were saying something.
No, I think this is the interesting kind of behavior, because I don't call myself as a technology man. So that's why I'm just saying that people behavior is one of the key, and which you can always monitor as a leader. When you keep interacting, you realize who can be threat for you.
Very much. I think IOC, IOA, IOB all needs to now go hand in hand very much. And Brijesh, thank you so much for those kind words as well. I think Vijay and Satish also did a fair job there. But trust me, a very amazing, wonderful session. So many takeaways, insights, and what stories you bring, trust me. So thank you so much for that. And yes, I think I'll do sum up with one of the most important key takeaway, that is the collaboration part. So at CyberGurukul, like we say, together enable, engage, and empower. So I think that's the best way to conclude. Thank you so much, everyone, for the time. Thank you so much, Brijesh, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.